our presence tonight, we're all blessed. This is a rare evening that we have a Hall of Fame member amongst us here. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, not just the baseball or the basketball, this is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Happens to be located in Iowa. But Rich Casciato, a very close friend of the family, been with Taylor a long time, and we deal with a lot of people from Taylor Guitars. Definitely one of the more knowledgeable one. He was a quick learner. Yeah, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member right there on stage. He'll be signing autographs later tonight. Sometimes he charges for it. Come on in, you guys. Come on in. Just, if you can squeeze through, we get a couple seats over there.
Yeah, come on in. Okay, so after all the comedy now is over.
Oh, sorry, Rich.
Could you give us 60 seconds on how you got connected with Taylor?
How we got connected with Taylor, that's an interesting story. We've been with not any records that far back. The best we can estimate is early 80s. My parents opened the store. It's their 41st year. Started with that other brand that we don't like to. I think Mom's here someplace. Oh, she's hiding in back too. So, they opened this little guitar shop. It had some electric guitars. Yes, we were a Martin dealer from the beginning. But Mom and Pops met Bob Taylor and Kurt Listed very early in their career at a guitar show here in Chicago, as I recall. And Mom and Dad liked the guitars. Mom approached Pops and asked about bringing a new line in. And again, no one heard of Taylor Guitars back then on the West Coast, but they were making their way east. Pops' response, and he'll admit to this, he said, well, we're a Martin dealer, we don't need any other guitars. And Mom and Dad's response was just, Bob and Kurt were nice guys, and the guitars were really nice. Let's give them a chance.
I've had to eat a lot of crow.
Yeah. So being the first dealer in the Chicago area, really, to carry Taylor Guitars has got to be known more as a Taylor shop here in the Chicago area. And as Taylor Guitars has grown to pretty much lead the industry in every way at this point, sure, we've gotten a little bigger, but we chose to stay that cutesy mom and pop store. It's just a fun way to spend your day. So a very close relationship with Bob Taylor, Andy Powers, Rich Casciato, all the big shots at Taylor, and a few more. But I tell everybody it's more of a family relationship than it is a business relationship. Just wonderful people, top to bottom.
So thanks very much for coming again. My name is Rich Casciato. I'm one of the Taylor district sales managers, and I do a lot of the road shows for them. And I actually live in the Midwest. I live in Des Moines area of Johnston. And I travel a 9-state area. I also get to spend a week in San Diego every month. I know it's a tough gig, but somebody's got to do it. Absolutely love doing what we do for Taylor. I work for one of the best, some of the best people in the business, Bob Taylor and Kurt. And so let's just go ahead and get going. I'm going to play a little bit first, and then we'll just talk about some guitars. We're going to talk about some new things coming out for 2019. Our new Grand Pacific, of course, we'll do that later in the program. I'm going to try to get you out of here in about 40 minutes or so. If you have any questions, let me know. And here we go. So, can you hear this okay? playing right there is a brand new guitar, well, a brand new revision of a guitar. This is a 522E Taylor guitar. This is an all mahogany guitar. So we have a solid mahogany back and sides with a solid mahogany top. It's non-cutaway. You can see how it's getting up there just fine without a cutaway. And what this guitar, how this guitar differs from the 522E from the past is that we have come out in 2019 by doing our new V-class bracing in our grand concert size guitars. Okay, if you all remember, for those of us that follow Taylor, you know, we're the die-hard Taylor people, we came out with V-class bracing last year, and we did it in our grand auditorium size guitars. That would be anything that ends in a 4. And so what we did is we've done some testing, and we found out that in some of the guitars in the grand concert size, that the V-class bracing really made a difference. So in our 300, 500, and 800 series 6-string steel guitars, and there will be a test, we're going to do a V-class bracing. And one of the ways you can tell if a guitar has V-class with Taylor is if it has a black nut. If it has a black nut up there, it has V-class bracing. And I am going to get into V-class again. We're going to do a little history on V-class for you before we go more into the program. But what ends up happening is that in the 12-string guitars in our concert size, we messed around with the V-class and we listened to the X-brace and we said, you know what? There's no need to change this guitar. This guitar is just fine. And of course, in the nylon string guitar, we were staying with the fan braced. So again, you know, we're talking a little bit of geeky stuff right here, and I'm going to try to not be so geeky, but some of us want the geekness, right? So that's what we'll do. Okay, so that is what the V-class sounds like in the 5. Now, real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a little. Okay, so that's what the all mahogany sounds like. And over here, this guitar is our 300 series. And the difference with this guitar is that it still has the mahogany top. It's the same size body. It does have the cutaway, but that you're not going to hear that as the one we just played. But it has a blackwood back and sides instead of mahogany back and sides. So this guy, if you remember what that one sounds like. So what you should have heard was that this guitar is a little bit louder. And that's because of the blackwood. Blackwood is a little bit of a louder punch, okay? Blackwood's actually like the loudest, almost like the loudest wood we make. And for some of you that are looking at this size of a guitar, you know, you go, my God, I can't believe the amount of volume that comes out of such a small guitar. You know, one of the things, I was cutting a video for Taylor at NAMM, and Andy Powers was walking by, and he only heard part of a sentence that I did. And after the video, he came over, did you really say? And I said, no, I didn't say that. I said this. He went, well, that's not what I heard. So I checked the video, and luckily I was right. But what I said was that given the amount of energy you give this guitar, it's virtually the loudest guitar that we make. Given the amount of energy. See, he didn't hear the part where I said given the amount of energy. So certainly it's not the loudest guitar we make. But if you listen here, I'm not using a heavy pick or anything, just my digits that the good Lord gave me, and I'm hardly touching the guitar. And if I get the mic out of the way, it's still a very pleasant, projects really well. Now some of that projection is coming from the V-class. So given that, I am now going to talk to you a little bit about V-class. So let's go back in the Wayback Machine. Who knows what I'm talking about with the Wayback Machine?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much, Sherman and Peabody. Yeah. Little funny thing you might win if you're in a trivia contest. Who's seen Back to the Future? when Michael J. Fox first goes back in time, the very first time, and he goes into that farm, and he knocks down the tree, and he goes into the barn, did you notice what name was on the mailbox? Sherman Peabody. Isn't that cool? Okay. Also, did you notice that the name of the mall when he left was Twin Pines Mall, and when he came back it was
Lone Pine.
Lone Pine Mall? Love that stuff. All right, so why am I here? Taylor Guitars, V-Class. Bring him back in. Okay, so the V-Class guitars. This guitar that I'm holding right now is called a K14. So this is our Koa Grand Auditorium Builder's Edition guitar. Koa back and sides, rounded edges, beautiful armrest and finger rest. But we're not necessarily talking about that. I want to just try to bring you back and reel you into what V-Class is compared to an X-Brace guitar. You know, back in 1931, again, we're taking the Wayback Machine now all the way back to 1931. And our friends at Martin came up with the X-Brace guitar. And why did they come up with the X-Brace guitar? And how many people have seen my roadshow? Okay, so some of you already know this. We had a banjo player that wanted to have a guitar that could keep up with mandolins and banjos. So he got them to build a guitar that would be strong enough to hold steel strings. And that's where all of this became and came about, where we could have a big, bad dreadnought guitar that could have steel strings, because everything in those days was gut string, and you couldn't hear it. All right, so the X-Brace has been around for a long time, and it did a great job. There's been some amazing, beautiful instruments made with X-Bracing. Many of us in this room own them. I probably own 10 or 12 myself, and they're amazing instruments, and I would never get rid of them. But you don't stop technology. You keep it moving. Andy had an idea for a different way to brace a guitar. So as we're coming forward in time, and for those of us that follow Taylor a lot, okay, the Taylor 800 series guitar, the 814 CE, for years was like the most popular guitar ever. It's a great guitar. It's truly a great instrument. And, great instruments just meant to be played, right? So he had an idea of, I'm going to change the bracing a little bit, and I'm going to change the thickness of the top, and I'm going to change the braces, I'm going to change some glue. I'm going to do all of these things to wrestle as much musicality I can out of an X-Brace instrument. Well, we did all we could do. The 814 CE Deluxe, for those of us that own them, amazing instrument. It's a great guitar. I love that guitar. But where was it going to go next? What's happening next? I joined Taylor Guitars 5 years ago. And the first time I spent some time with Andy, he heard that I was a player, a little bit of a player. And we were in his office. And we started playing a little, because I got a guitar I want you to play. And he hands me this guitar. And I start playing. And I'm going, what is this? He goes, what do you hear? And I said, I don't know. I think it's more what I don't hear than what I hear. And he goes, well, what is it? I said, I don't know. And I go, what did you do? And I'm doing what all of us idiot geeks do. You're looking inside and you're trying to do everything you possibly can. And I said, what'd you do? He goes, I can tell you yet. What I didn't know was that I had played one of the first V-Class guitars 5 years ago. So this isn't something that's brand new that we came up with in November and changed the whole course of what we're doing. This has been in the works a long time. So what does it do? If we talk about an X-Brace crossing here, and I'm talking about the top. Underneath this top, there's these wood braces. I'll tell you right now that if we could build the best sounding guitar with the most energy, and it would sound so amazing, it would fall apart in 5 minutes. Because it wouldn't be strong enough. Because you want the wood to vibrate. I was talking to some people before the show, and I don't believe that you guys don't play, right, ladies? You don't play. Yeah, okay. And so, I need to play guitars. And so, what? Clean it up. All right. So we're, and I told them a story about when I was getting married, and I explained to my wife that I like to buy guitars. In multiples. Many, many multiples. There's a passion that flows with us musicians. and we pick up something and we make music with it. And it's something that we want to grab onto and keep, right? So all of these things, all come into play. And so with this V-brace, what it does is that it opens up the instrument to do things that instruments normally don't do. Remember I told you that the best sounding guitar would probably blow up. That's because you always have to have a compromise. You have to compromise between, do I want this guitar to sustain a long time? Who's seen Spinal Tap? Okay, the Les Paul, oh, it sings. Can't you hear it? It's still going. It's still sustaining. Don't touch it. It's still sustained, right? It's sustained, but you can't hear it. You have to plug it into an amp to hear it. But a banjo, we got any banjo players? Am I on Facebook Live? Okay, I can't tell my banjo jokes. I'm not allowed.
I can shut this.
No, don't shut it off, it's fine. I'm on a roll. Banjos. Okay, banjos. They're loud. But they have zip sustain, right? The note happens, and it's done. It's ready for the next note. So, if I build a guitar that's overly strong, you won't hear it. If I build a guitar that's overly weak, you'll hear it, but it won't have any sustain. So there's this constant battle. Okay, what V-Class did, by getting the braces here, it built strength along the center line of the instrument, so that the weakest note on the guitar, which is right here, it's still sustaining, right? It's still, now I can feel it in the back of my hand, it's still going. And you go, well, the guitar's not supposed to do that. You're right, it's not supposed to, but this one does. Okay, so there's the sustain problem. We fixed an issue, okay? Well, what about now the guitar here and here, where we're getting some movement and some rocking back and forth movement, which gives us volume, is now able to move freer. So the guitar has more projection. So what do I mean by that? Now, what do we mean by that? Is that, and I'm going to move the mic back a little bit, Lee, just so you know. A projection, volume is, wow, boom, it hits you like that. But projection means that I'll play the guitar, and you'll hear it, and you'll hear it, and you'll hear it, theoretically at about the same volume. So when I play, or I go, even without the mic being so far away, you folks in the back, in the cheap seats, should theoretically be able to hear the guitar just fine, because it has great projection. So you kind of get into a free fall here. Oh, you caught that, didn't you? Yeah. Am I on Facebook Live? Darn it. All right. But something really cool happened that Andy didn't know was going to happen. And that is, what occurred was that as he was playing the guitar, he was hearing something, or actually not hearing something. And what he was not hearing was an intonation issue. So, for those of us that play electric guitars, and we intonate our guitars, we shorten the string, we make adjustments to string lengths, we do all of these different things, right? Because we intonate our guitars. Well, intonation really means in tuneness. Okay, so what does that mean? Let's say that I'm a vocalist. I am, but, well, okay, kind of, all right. But if I want to try to sing a perfect note, I want it to be in tune. I'm not going to shorten my vocal cords. I'm not going to adjust it. I learned how to sing a perfect note by forming in my mouth, which is my voice box, like the box of a guitar, to be able to make a perfect note. I train it. V-Class is like it trained the inside of the box of the instrument. Because what was happening was harmonics were getting mixed in there, and physics is physics. A string at a given length at a given tension will provide a given note. But if the box, the amplifier, is messing around with the frequencies, it won't produce that. That note can't get out. It'll be garbled. Kind of like if you threw 30 stones into a pond, there's just ripple. If you throw one in there and it makes the big circle, what you're actually seeing, you're seeing a sound wave. It's a water wave, but it's a sound wave and it moves a lot smaller, or moves a lot slower, so you can see it. All right, so why did I say all that? Well, this is why. Guitar players. Page 7 of the Mel Bay Primer teaches you how to play a G chord. And it's this, right? But on an acoustic guitar, what is it that we sometimes do? We do this. We don't do this. Can you, even non-players, can you hear the difference in those two chords? This and this. Hear that note? That's a B note. That's a very important note in a G chord, because if you don't have that, you're playing a power chord. And what's a power chord? It's what all of us acoustic guitar players make fun of the metalheads, because that's all they play, is that. That's a power chord, 2 notes. So, but why do we do that? We do that because the guitars normally they won't play in tune with each other. It doesn't want to play nice. And here's how it doesn't play nice. You put your headstock tuner on, you tune the guitar. You play an E chord. Oh, it sounds great. You play an A chord. Sounds good. You play a D chord, and what do you have to do? You're laughing, but what do you have to do?
Flatten the B.
Flatten the B, and ever so slightly, sometimes you have to adjust the G. Depends on the guitar. And we blamed the instrument. We blamed the heavens, because our guitar, we have to change it. You know, when you're changing keys, you know. V-Class fixed it. My D chord is fine. My G chord is great. I can actually play a real G chord. I don't have to cheat it. You know, what's interesting is we didn't do it on purpose. We didn't consciously say, my guitar can't play a B note when I'm playing a G chord, so I'm going to play an extra D and I'm going to flatten this thing so it deadens. We didn't think that way. We didn't think like a keyboard player. Keyboard players think about this stuff. Guitar players don't. Right? We just fixed it by doing that. But it should be there. So when you're doing things like and you can go up to open strings and fretted strings. And it sounds great. Okay, so I took longer than I should have to go back over V-Class, but I wanted you to understand what it is and how cool it is. And you can always tell if a Taylor has V-Class again because it'll have a black nut up here. So everybody says, oh, well, the black nut must be special. It must be something just amazing. And it's graphite infused Teflon. And that's why it works. It's like, no, actually the reason that it's there is because Bob Taylor, who signs my checks, said, when I look at a wall of guitars, I want to be able to spot what's V-Class, so put a black nut on there. Oh, okay. Well, the only one we have is this Teflon. Put the black nut on there. Yes, sir. So the black nut goes on there. This is pretty amazing stuff, folks. And, you know, for us guitar players, I mean, you know, there's these intimate moments of history, you know, and back in the early 1900s, the X-Brace was huge. This is the thing. This is the next thing, is V-Brace. So let's go from there. So again, then what we did was we then took that V-Class and we put it into some of our grand concerts. They're going to be coming out slow over this coming year. Like I said before, 300 series, 500 series, 800 series is going to be first. And then we're going to come out later with the 400s, 700s, and things like that. Okay, so the next thing that we did a little bit differently is the bass, the GS Mini bass. Does anybody in this room own a GS Mini? A regular GS Mini, not a GS Mini bass, a GS Mini.
Mahogany.
Mahogany. What else you got? Anybody? Mahogany? Okay. Well, nobody's going to leave without buying a GS Mini because everybody needs one. Wow, the crowd went mild.
I can help with that.
And then Paul can help with this. Okay, so what's the deal with a GS Mini bass? You know, the GS Mini bass is really fun. We've wanted to do this for a long time. And I know when I first joined, I go, why don't we make a GS Mini bass? Can't be that tough. What's the big deal? Just throw 4 strings on it and put the things on there and let it rip. And, you know, you get the look. You know, it's like the look from my wife when I go, let's go to Cincinnati for the weekend or something. You know, she goes, Andy had figured out how to do everything with the GS Mini bass. It wasn't an issue. Then he put bass strings on it, and he tried to tune it. It wouldn't even register on a tuner. Okay, so do we have bass players, any bass players in the room? Okay, I'll talk slower. Do we have any drummers? Any drummers? Okay, well then I'll start slow and then I'll speed up. Okay, so for us bass players, okay, it's hard because, you know, you're used to taking a 34-inch scale. So you're taking a scale of an instrument from here, and you're moving it down to this, and expecting it to provide the same note. Remember what I said a couple minutes ago, if anybody's listening, is that the physics of a string don't change. At a given length and at a given tightness, you get a given note. Well, we just took a third of the length out of the string, and we're expecting it to magically work. So Andy had to actually work with Diodario and come up with a string that would work and register and tune and be musical. And folks, everything's about being musical, right? I mean, we're talking about musical instruments. So you get a... Who said it first? I love you guys. I always like to pull that kind of stuff out because it's Barney Miller. It's like, yeah, it is. So why is this so fun? It's so fun. You know, most of the people that buy these are guitar players, by the way. So if you're wanting to add to your collection, y'all are welcome. You know, this is a great thing because you put it with your other guitars. Everybody comes over to your house, you're jamming, you're having a good time. Is there ever a bass around? No, not really. Or if it is, it's an electric one. But you have this guy hanging up, and trust me, people fight over it to play it. Because the way that the strings are, it's like... It almost acts like it's a fretless sometimes. And it sounds great. It's really, really fun. And it comes with an electric pickup and a tuner built in. But this year, 2019, you ready? Flame Maple. Ooh. Okay, now we're ready for the big news. Why everybody is here. The Grand Pacific. Okay, so what's the deal with the Grand Pacific? This is such a fun thing to talk about. I mean, it truly is. I spent some time with Andy and with a lot of the guys at Taylor. You know, when I talked to you about the V-Brace a little while ago, and I told you I got to play one of the first V-Brace, it wasn't on a grand auditorium, it was on a dreadnought. And V-Brace has given us the platform, us. And when I say us, I mean Andy and Bob and the whole crew. Really, I mean Andy, you know. But this has given us a platform to spring forth amazing musical instruments and things that just allow your creativity to just flow and move, okay? So the Grand Pacific is the newest shape and the newest sound that you've ever heard from Taylor. It's a sound that we have never really had, that Taylor has never really had. And the basis of it is this. I'm scanning the room and I'm going to try to guesstimate some ages of people in here. And I'm not going to say any numbers, but I think the average is at a certain given point. Yeah, don't duck. It's okay. We all know what Looney Tunes is, and we all knew what the Wayback Machine was, so we all know. You know, Andy was listening to, Andy is quite the musician. I love playing. Whenever I get a chance to play with him, I love it. I'm just trying to play chords, and I'm watching what he's doing. Tremendous mandolin player, guitarist, country, bluegrass, it doesn't matter. He can really play it all. And when you listen, if I tell you you get your dual turntable with your Shure M91ED and you drop it on the vinyl and it goes into your Kenwood 6160 and out of your Dynaco A25 speakers that were made in Denmark, who knows what I'm talking about? Yeah. I just described to you my stereo that I had in high school that I still listen to in my office, okay? There ain't nothing that sounds like that. Nothing. And you drop that needle on some old 60s bluegrass, country. Does anybody in this room have the Will the Circle Be Unbroken album? Okay. This is the kind of thing that Andy was listening to as a kid and even to today. And you drop the needle and you hear things like Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so let me tell you a story. When those albums were recorded, and you heard things like this. There's some tears flowing, I know. When you heard things like that, when you dropped the needle, how old were those guitars? Oh, I never thought about that. Those guitars were new. They weren't 55-year-old vintage guitars. Gee, I wonder if they used Elixir strings. No, they probably used Labellas or maybe Martin, maybe Black Diamond. Okay. And what mic did they use? And what kind of mic cable was used from that microphone? And how long was it? And what was the console that they used that took that signal into Mylar tape, maybe running at, if they were lucky, 30 inches per second, but probably 15. You know what I want, Rich? I want a guitar that sounds just like that. Well, it sounds just like what? I've got a 55-year-old Martin, and I want it to sound like that. Well, now let's come to present day. Because Andy is so well known in the musical instrument community, he has actually gotten his hands on those guitars, those actual guitars. He's repaired them, he's looked at them, he's done everything, and he's got a great ear. And he went, you know what? This guitar does not sound like it did on that record. Right? I mean, like Joan Rivers, can we talk? Grand Pacific sounds like the record. Okay? Well, let's go further. Sometimes you play some of those old guitars, and they're fun. We're not taking anything away from how cool those guitars are. But let's talk about musicality, fundamental tones, and fundamental notes, and how everything really, really works. Because a lot of things that come out of the instruments aren't musical. How dare you say that? Listen to that thump that comes out, that poof of air, that smack that hits you. Wow, listen to that. You think that you can record that? Have you ever tried to put a microphone? Have you ever seen a video of someone singing in a studio, and they have a microphone, and they're singing, and what's in front of the mic? A pop filter. It's a thing that sits right here. You know what it does? It stops the pop. Okay, puff of air, puff of air. You can't record that. So what's your engineer going to do, or your sound guy that's out front? He's going to suck all your low end out, and he's going to, probably screw around with the upper end, and so everything that you're striving for is all being taken out. What we want is we want the guitar to sound like a dreadnought guitar should sound. Warm, inviting, and we want the notes to blend together. What the heck are you talking about now? See, we're going down further and further into the rabbit hole, right? So, what's he talking about? I have two guitars here. I have the brand new 317 Grand Pacific. This is a Sapele back and side, solid spruce top, new guitar, slope shoulder. You can call it a slope shoulder dread or a soft shoulder dread, whatever you want. And then I have right here a 314 CE, the number 3 most popular guitar in the country that sells for over $500, right here. This guitar is so much fun, it should be in everybody's collection.
I can help with that.
And Paul can help. Sapele back and sides, okay? Sapele back and sides. So everything is basically really the same. So how do they sound different? Okay? So here we go. If I play... Got that? And if I go... I do know more than 4 songs. But if we don't do it this way, you're not going to hear the difference, okay? So bear with me. Listen to how the notes blend in the chord. What just happened? Okay, I'm just going to tell you because we're running a little. Is everybody doing okay? Because this is a little bit longer than normal, but I mean, I got you. Okay. So this is the Grand Auditorium. Totally different sound, which is why you need one in every collection. And Paul can help you with that. So what's the difference here? Well, the waist is in a different spot. I mean, there's a lot of things that are different. Again, we're not going down the rabbit hole too much here. But when you play a chord on this guitar, what's different is you can actually pick out the notes. Think about a piano and an organ. Got it? Okay. So on a piano, you can a lot of times hear the overtones of each individual note when you play a chord. But on the organ, it all blends together. And that's a Grand Pacific. That's why the Grand Pacific is such an important guitar to have if you're laying down a bed of music, if you're laying down a nice rhythm. You know, it's a traditional, it's a new take on a traditional guitar. Okay? It's a brand new tone that we've never had. And I'm telling you, you have to, when you play it, you're going to love it. But when you play it, you have to think about what it is you listen for. Is Taylor trying to build a guitar with a whoosh of air? No, because it's not musical. But these are musical. So now I'm going to walk you through the 3 different versions, if that's okay. We all okay? All right. Now you already heard, you already heard me playing on the 317, which was the Sapele and Spruce. This guitar here is the 500 series. The 500 series instrument is a mahogany. So it's a mahogany back and sides. And this spruce top is torrified. And all that means is that we went to the Betty Crocker School of learning how to cook stuff. And we've baked this top. And the reason that we've done that, the reason that we've baked it, is because we're trying to get it stable. So we're taking the humidity out, and then we're putting the humidity back in, and we're taking the humidity out, and we're crystallizing this. And what's ending up happening is that by getting that top stable and crystallizing everything, I don't want to sit here and tell you, this sounds like a 12-year-old guitar. No, it does sound like it's more broken in. It does sound like it's older than brand new. But it really stabilizes the instrument, Okay, this is also these are called builder's editions models. The builder's editions model are things that Andy would just love to have in the guitar that he would like to play with if he was playing out. The edges here are rounded; they're not squared off. We already talked about the torrefied top. He even went to the point of ever so slightly redoing the bridge here so it has rounded edges. So everything is becoming, you know, this warm and cozy and stuff, softness. On the neck, we've done something really interesting where we're calling it a compound carve neck. Some people know they know the term compound radius, okay, but this is a compound carve. So it starts out here with a really slight V neck, and it comes up into more of a rounded D, okay. That jet just flew over me. What the heck are you talking about? All right, let's talk about the jet. If I hold my hand here and I hold my hand here because I'm playing the guitar, you see how different my hand is? I'm grabbing the guitar, the neck at a different spot in a different way. If I'm playing chords like here and I'm playing chords here, I'm grabbing the guitar differently. So what it does is it makes it so smooth and so nice. And if I'm doing solo work, everything works, okay, by having that compound carve. We even did something kind of fun back here where he rounded this even, which I think is cool. The other one comes to a point, and we moved the strap pin to here instead of back here because we want you to be able to get up here and get everything. Everything's nice and rounded, you know. It's just an amazing instrument. So I'm going to play you a little bit of something on the mahogany. Is it coming through? So the mahogany, if you didn't hear it, has a really beautiful warmth, you know, and it's a very inviting guitar. It's very pleasing to listen to. You know, back in a previous life, I did some work for the Bose Corporation. I was with an audio video company based out of Omaha and Des Moines, and my job was to sell speakers to consumers. And what I learned there was something that's really interesting. And what I learned was that females hear different than males. Now, I'm not talking about words. I'm talking about frequency response. And all the females are going, yeah, and males don't hear what I'm talking.
Even more so after you say I do.
Yeah, there you go. Wow. Really? Okay. When did I lose control of the crowd? Okay, so where I'm going with all of this is that it was really funny because you put on the Journey album, you drop the needle on the journey, and you'd crank the volume of certain speakers, and the guys are like, yeah, listen to that, and the girlfriends or the wives are like, sounds horrible to them because they hear a frequency response that's way up here, and we don't. So the guys, because of that push in that high efficiency speaker, and then you put on a Bose, and I'm not trying to sell Bose, I'm just trying to, follow me on where I'm going with this. Okay, I have 3 surround sound systems in my house. Yes, they're all Bose, but beside the point. You put it on there, and there isn't that rush of high end. It's very musical. And you go, listen to that cymbal. Listen to that note of that guitar. Listen to this. It doesn't have that brightness. I'm looking at females. It doesn't have, it sounds warm, right? Okay, so now from that, if we go to Rosewood, which is the 700 series guitar, what's going to happen here is that it's not going to have that mid-rangey thing. It's going to have a little bit more low end, but it's going to have an extenuated high end. See, it's got that brightness there. Actually, it's not a brightness, it's a transparency, and there's a huge difference. Somebody says, well, your Taylor guitar sounds bright. No, it doesn't. It sounds very transparent. You can hear every note exactly the way you're supposed to hear it. And when I play, and it plays good with others. You get some guy jamming on a Rosewood guitar, and you jump on with your guitar. Funny thing, I can hear the Taylor. It doesn't blend. It says, here's this guitar, here's this guitar. Right? I'm not talking Greek here, am I? Okay. So here is the, if I were to play here on this guy, and I'll use Okay, so it had that big push of power on the low end, but the upper end notes were very clear and very distinct. And that's a Rosewood guitar. Most people are drawn to Rosewood if they're a singer-songwriter. They want to sing because their voice is the mid-range. And Rosewood has a little bit of a dip in there. So, you're so it's very percussive, but the bass comes out. Okay, so that's kind of what Rosewood will do. So we have the guitars in 3 versions: Rosewood, mahogany, and those are both builder's editions. And then we have the 317 that is not a builder's edition. And it's just the most unbelievable dread that you've played. So, that's the show, folks. I ran.